Overlap. 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 Let's talk about the word overlap. So, overlap is a verb that means to extend beyond the edge of something else, or to have two things share a part in common. In everyday language, you might use this word when talking about physical spaces. Like if you're planning a party and you want to make sure the tables and chairs fit nicely together. Without any empty space, you'd say that one table overlaps with another if they meet at one corner. Right? But overlap can also be used figuratively. Like in a discussion where two people are working on the same idea or goal, we might say that their ideas overlap when they come to similar conclusions. One important thing to note about overlap is that it's often used in formal or technical language. So you might hear it used in academic or professional contexts. For example, if a researcher is talking about two different theories that both explain the same phenomenon, they might say that those theories overlap. It's not a super common word, but it's definitely useful to know when trying to understand complex ideas. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word overlap, along with context explanations. When discussing a scheduling conflict, Sarah said to her friend Emily, "I'm so sorry, but I won't be able to attend your birthday party on Saturday because it overlaps with my family's vacation plans." In this casual conversation usage, the sentence is used to express regret and explain why someone can't participate in an event. The phrase overlaps with is used here to indicate that two schedules or events coincide. In contrast, a more formal tone was used by Professor Thompson when explaining a concept in her lecture on organizational theory. When examining different departmental hierarchies within a company, we need to consider the possibility of role overlap between team members. The resulting confusion and inefficiencies can be mitigated by implementing clear boundaries. In this business or academic usage, the sentence is used to introduce a technical term and explain its significance in a specific context. If you're planning a music festival with multiple stages and performers, it's essential to coordinate the schedules of all artists to avoid overlap, to ensure that no two performances happen at exactly the same time. You might need to adjust the stage schedules accordingly. In this scenario, overlap is used to refer to the coincidence of two or more events in terms of time, highlighting the importance of careful planning and scheduling. So when we talk about something that happens in multiple areas at once, like two circles on a map touching each other, or two things that share common characteristics with another thing, it's like they have a connection point where they meet or are related. This is kind of what happens when different ideas, concepts, or even objects come together and share something in common, making them more connected and similar to each other. For example, if you think about the qualities of both cats and dogs, some of those things like loyalty, being able to train, and being popular pets might be the same or very similar for both animals. Right? That's because they share certain characteristics that make them related in a way, even though they're different. Passive. 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 Let's talk about the word passive. The part of speech for passive is an adjective. In common usage, we use passive to describe something that receives or allows something else to act upon it. For example, in a sentence like, "The audience was passive during the presentation." Passive means not actively participating or reacting, but rather just existing and allowing others to have their say. It can also refer to a grammatical construction where the subject of a sentence is acted upon by an external agent, as in, "The ball was thrown by John." So, you want to know how to use the word passive in different contexts? Well, let's take a look at some examples. In formal usage, consider this sentence. The passive voice is commonly used in scientific writing to provide an objective tone. Here, the context is academic or research related, where the focus is on conveying information without bias. Now, if you're having a casual conversation with friends about your weekend, you might say something like, "I'm so tired, I just want to be left alone and passively watch Netflix all day." In this case, the word passive adds a hint of humor to convey how much you're craving some relaxation. On the other hand, in business or academic writing, using passive voice might be necessary for describing processes or procedures that don't necessarily involve individual actions, such as, "The new company policy will be rolled out across all departments by the end of next quarter." Here, the context is professional and procedural, where clarity on who's performing an action isn't crucial to understanding. So, you know how sometimes you just listen to something without having to think too much about what's being said? Like when you're listening to a song or watching a movie and you're not really paying attention to every single word. That's kind of like what we mean by this concept. It's the act of receiving information without actively doing anything with it. You're just sort of absorbing it, I guess. The main characteristics are that you're not taking an active role in learning or understanding something, but rather just letting it sink in as you go about your day. Some people might use terms like receptive or absorptive to describe this idea. Basically, it's the opposite of being actively engaged with information, and more about just soaking it up. Portion. 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 So, let's talk about the word portion. As a verb, it means to give or take a share of something, like food or time. For example, she portioned out equal amounts of dessert for each guest. When used as a noun, it refers to a part or a share of something, such as food, an amount, or a division. For instance, the restaurant served large portions of pasta. A common usage is in phrases like a small, large portion or take, serve a portion of, which emphasize the quantity. What's also worth noting is that the word can imply a sense of moderation or control when used with food or resources, as in eating only a portion to avoid overeating. Overall, understanding how and when to use portion can help you communicate more effectively in everyday conversations. In a formal setting, such as a dinner party at your colleague's house, you might say, "I'm just going to have a small portion of the salad. Thank you." This usage implies a measured and controlled amount of food. On the other hand, in a casual conversation with friends while grabbing lunch, someone might exclaim, "I can barely finish my large portion of fries." Here, the emphasis is on the quantity of food being more than enough. In a business or academic context, such as a presentation to investors about market trends, you might say, "Our company will focus on offering smaller portions of premium products at an affordable price point." This usage highlights the strategic importance of portion control in marketing and consumer preference. So, you want to learn about this concept that refers to a specific amount of something? Let me explain. Think of it as a defined quantity of food, a set amount of time, or a particular segment of something. It's like when you order a meal and you ask for half of the dessert to be left on your plate. Or when you have to finish a certain number of pages in a book before you can go outside. In that sense, it's about specifying how much of something is available or needed, making sure there's enough but not too much. Similar ideas might include servings. slices, or even beats in music. Basically, it's about dividing something into manageable chunks.